If you've ever made real progress only to suddenly fall back into old habits, this video is for you. Because this isn't about laziness, it isn't about discipline, and it isn't because you don't want it badly enough. In fact, most people fall back right after things start working. You start waking up earlier, you're consistent for a week, maybe two. You eat better, you work out, you focus, and then, almost without noticing, you slip. One missed day turns into two. Two turns into a week, and suddenly you're back in the same place, beating yourself up and asking yourself the same question. Why do I always do this? Here's the truth most people never hear. You don't fall back because you're weak. You fall back because your old identity is fighting for survival. And unless you understand that battle, you will keep losing it, no matter how motivated you feel. Most advice around habits and self-improvement focuses on starting. Start the routine, start the diet, start the discipline. But very little advice focuses on what happens after momentum begins. That's where the real danger is. Because your brain is comfortable with who you've been, your patterns, your routines, your coping mechanisms. And when you begin to change those patterns, your brain doesn't celebrate, it panics. Progress feels like a threat to the system it already understands, so it pushes back, not loudly, not dramatically, but subtly. You feel it as a sudden loss of energy, a voice saying, "You've done enough," a craving for comfort, an urge to relax, reward yourself, or slow down. This is not failure. This is resistance. Old habits don't disappear. They go dormant, and they're very patient. They wait for a bad day, stress, fatigue, one missed action. Then they return, not as temptation, but as relief. That's why relapse feels comforting. Your old habits are familiar. They don't demand growth. They don't challenge your identity. They let you be who you already know how to be. This is why people don't sabotage themselves when life is bad. They sabotage themselves when life starts improving, because improvement requires you to become someone new, and becoming someone new is uncomfortable. This is an identity problem, not a habit problem. Most people think habits exist in isolation. They don't. Habits are expressions of identity. You don't have habits. You act in alignment with who you believe you are. So when your actions start to change but your identity hasn't caught up yet, friction appears. Your old identity whispers things like, "This isn't really you. You're not the disciplined type. You'll fall off anyway." And if you listen to that voice long enough, you prove it right. Not because it's true, but because you obeyed it. This is where most people make the mistake. They try to fight relapse with willpower. They push harder. They shame themselves. They try to get serious again. But willpower is a short-term tool. Identity is a long-term force. If your system relies on motivation, emotion, or pressure, it will collapse the moment life applies weight. You don't need more force. You need structure. Now here's the system that stops relapse. The goal is not to avoid slipping. The goal is to make slipping irrelevant. Here's how. 1. Stop measuring progress emotionally. Most people judge progress by how they feel. I feel motivated. I feel tired. I feel off today. That's a trap. Progress must be measured by non-negotiable actions, not emotions. Your feelings fluctuate, your system does not. 2. Anchor yourself to one daily identity action. When you fall back, it's because you're trying to hold too much at once. Instead, choose one action that represents the person you're becoming, not 10, not a full routine, one. Something so small, so clear, that skipping it feels stranger than doing it. This is not about intensity. This is about continuity. With time, you can definitely do more, but in the beginning, start small. 3. On bad days, change the goal. Here's where most people lose. On hard days, they ask, "Can I do the full version?" The better question is, what version of this keeps my identity intact today? This is where your rule matters. You can always do more, but you never do less than the minimum. That minimum is not there to challenge you, it's there to protect the habit from collapse. And just as important, there are days when real rest is required. Illness, exhaustion, recovery. On those days, rest without guilt. Rest is not quitting. Rest is maintenance. Here's something simple that changes everything. On days when motivation is low, the goal is not to finish the task. The goal is to get in position. That's it. Hands on the floor, shoes on your feet, document open, desk cleared. No pressure to perform, no promise to complete, just positioning. Because once you're in position, resistance drops, momentum begins quietly, and action follows naturally. You don't start by doing, you start by positioning. On days when you fail, remember that failure is not the end. You will miss days, you will slip, you will have moments of regression. That's not the end. Failure only becomes the end if you interpret it as identity. A missed day is a data point, not a verdict. Learn, adjust, return. The system works because it expects imperfection and survives it. One day you'll look back and realize something important. Your progress didn't come from heroic effort. It came from boring consistency, from small actions, from systems that carried you when motivation disappeared. Consistency beats intensity. Identity beats motivation. Systems beat dreams. If you want your life to stop looping back into old habits, stop relying on force. Build structure, protect your identity, lower the barrier, show up small every day. Choose one habit, one task, one promise you refuse to break, and start today. Because once you master following through, you become unstoppable. You become someone your future can rely on, and you begin your ascent. This is the Ascent Club. If you want more videos on habits, systems, discipline, and becoming a better you, subscribe and join us. Your new life starts with one task. Do it today.